The law of compensation. The law of compensation focuses on the idea that you get a gain for every loss. And all the logic from Ralph Waldo Emerson's book, The Law of Compensation, stems from that one principle. While, yes, it does incorporate things such as the law of attraction, Newton's third law of motion, law of polarity, and compound gain, but then it takes aspects of those laws to help you form a wealthy mindset and a hybrid that we call the law of compensation. So I have a water boy story that I'm going to share with you. All right, so a really good friend and I were headed to the gym together, and we were just driving by the freeway, and then we saw the Atlanta Water Boys. And if you don't know what the Atlanta Water Boys, I highly suggest you Google who they are, but basically it is a group of young men that sell waters on the roadside for money, and it's kind of notorious, and they're just known for that. So we see the water boy, and one guy was singing. I mean, he was really going to town, really had some talent, just amazing stuff. So the friend that I was with happens to be a singer. And then so she tells me to pull over off the road, and I do. And then the water boy comes with they normally have two waters, well, a water in each hand. So he runs to the door where we're at, and he was like, you want one or two waters? And she had a $10 bill in her hand. And she said to him, I don't want any water. What I'm really interested in is learning that run. I'll give you $10 if you could teach me that run. Right. And then so his reaction kind of was like, hmm. And I could kind of see what the wheels turning in his head. And he was basically thinking, okay, I could keep the water and just show her this run. So uh, 3 rounds of going through the da 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 da. She got it on the third one, and then they started to play around with that, and they incorporated in different styles of music. This whole process was just under 5 minutes, by the way, and it was beautiful. And she was able to incorporate in this style of music and that style of music and various types of music that she loves. And then so she gives him the $10, and as I was reading the book, The Law of Compensation, that story came to my mind, because what happened in that story is that was a great example of getting a gain for every loss. All right. So what she did was she said, I have $10 if you teach me this, versus just receiving the water that to her or to us, we were pretty satiated and already had water, would not have really add value to our life. Now, would it have been nice? Absolutely. Hey, that was really nice of you, Irv. Thank you, friend. But nothing came back to us. So, in terms of Ralph Waldo Emerson, that would break the law of the law of compensation. So instead, she engaged in this exchange. What she lost was 5 minutes of time. What she lost was $10. But the investment, right? The ROI that came back to her was triple fold. So now she has a snazzy run that she does, and it has been incorporated in different music things that she has done. So she has received more from that. Really good example on that. And that idea is really the focus and of the book, really, and then and really of terms of the law and compensation just in general. So as we get into the various different aspects of it, keep that story in mind that the simple root principle is for every gain, there is a loss. And I find it real interesting that we use the term loss. The word loss was used so many times in this book, it was bananas. But because I understand manifesting, I also understand that is a very delicious cosmic way of just releasing all types of resistance. All right, because you've lost it. Focusing on the loss. I lost something. So therefore there's no resistance there. You let it go. You let it go on your terms. She let go of the $10. That's fine. And what came back was something that was worth her time. You lose something and you're okay with it because you're receiving something. So every action that you take, every substantial action, and you'll get better over time, building momentum, everything that you do, especially, and I really want you to listen to this, everything that you do, especially when you're at the bargaining table, you definitely need to make sure everything said, every concept, everything brought comes back to you, because otherwise it's just wasted energy. Even a mom or a dad or a big brother or a big sister invest time in baby, and baby grows up to take care of them because they're older. That investment comes back. It's the reason why farmers have a lot of kids, or why people had a lot of kids back in the day. So let's get into the first concept of it that I caught that it actually mentions, and that it is the law of attraction. One of my favorite things to talk about. And the law of attraction, I like to put it this way: if you're new to it, or if you heard of it, or if you're just kind of like, you may be at the point where you kind of like, if someone asks you, do you know about the law of attraction? And you're probably like, yeah, I mean, I've heard of it. I could carry on in a conversation with it. But anyway, so the law of attraction is, in my simplest terms, is what you think about, you bring about. All right. So that's the concept of the law of attraction, that anything that you say comes back to you. All of your thoughts come back to you. All of your actions come back to you. So that is the instance. And I really like the example that Ralph Waldo Emerson gave. And I can see after reading the book that he was ahead of his time, because clearly he was anti-slavery, because the example in the book that he gives in relation to the law of attraction is something to the effect of, he who has the slave master who has a chain around the slave's neck, he himself has a chain around his neck. All right. So he was an individualist, promoting individualism ahead of his time. So I really like that. But that also shows you that the law of compensation extends more than just actual cash, right? It extends more than just the exchange of currency. It's more than just dollar for action. It's more than just coin or check for action. It transcends into your lifestyle. So that's real important, because the slave master who has chains around his slave's neck ultimately has that on him. And another example that it gives, in a point that I'm going to get into the third thing similar to it, is that the slave master is never really safe, right? So then he's attracting that by, not doing people right. So there is like a big moral sense of doing good to receive good, and being cognizant of the energy that you're putting out. And because it rides the way of the law of compensation, the energy that you put out in terms of the law of compensation, that energy then comes back to you. And then so you want to get in a mindset where you're really able to ensure that you're putting out stuff to make a good reaction come back to you. Because if you cannot master just treating people right, in terms of Ralph Waldo Emerson's law of compensation, it would be virtually inevitably impossible, because that would ultimately come back to you. So then you would say, well, the slave masters lived their entire lives, Urban, and, nothing happened to them. Let me put it to you this way: the little measly 100 years that we're here, okay, It's 100 years. But in terms of infinite, in terms of eternity, it's kind of a drop in the bucket. There's a billion years before, and there'll be a billion years after. And then so the idea is that as we transition through the cycle, that it kind of determines your yesteryear or for the infinite amount of time remaining while we're in this state, spiritual people having a human experience for a reason, you know. So the law of attraction is ensuring that you're cognizant of how you treat people because wealth is more than just money. It's respect, it's honor, it's being able to pull favors, it's being able to have support when you need it. There's many, 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 many ways to be wealthy, is what he's getting at. So the next point that I would like to make. But first, before I get into that next point, if you are enjoying this video, I will ask you to please subscribe. Is the best way for me to do what I do, which is bring content that I truly feel will add value to your life and make it a lot better. And so that way, you could make shift happen. Okay, so the second thing on the list is Newton's third law of motion. So the idea behind this concept is do something that'll logically render high yields. So unlike the law of attraction where it's kind of not measured, Newton's third law of motion is for the distance. I'm gonna use a Matilda reference. The Trunchbull taught us a good lesson, okay? The distance the shot put goes depends upon the effort that you put into it. So that means it can't go any further than you've put in effort for it to go. All right. So the law of attraction is more mystical. This is actually physics, where law of attraction is more metaphysics. So that's why it's more defined. But the interesting part that he brings up is the example that I like, and it's actually about a governor. And the part that he brought up was a governor I'm paraphrasing, but to the effect of that a governor who underpays his people is never safe. So his safety can only go as far as the effort that he put into it, and his life actually measures that. You see what I'm saying? To put it into another example that relates to actual compensation is, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a teacher. Shout out to my teachers out there, by the way. I truly feel teachers make all things possible. So shout out to my teachers. If you love teachers, why don't you put like I heart teachers in the comments and we can support our teachers. They are severely underpaid, but that's a whole nother topic. Teachers make all professions possible, but and even though teachers can make you enriched in wisdom, knowledge, can really put you on the path where you yourself can make your dreams come true. If you're a public school teacher, it's not necessarily a job that you would expect or one would expect for you to strike it rich. It has a salary cap. All right. So, according to the law of compensation, if you're a teacher and you want to be rich, and that is your only opening, which is the method that you do to create your manifestation, if that's the only opening you're doing to make it happen, then according to the law of compensation, it won't. So, rather you be a teacher, teach online, do training programs, expand, because if you're selling something, then the limit is yourself. All right. So that is a more literal example of you get as much as you give or as far as you give. The teachers with the low salary, unfortunately, has a cap. There's a salary cap, a literal cap of how much they can make. There's budget and stuff. But if that teacher sold beauty secrets and put it out there, then there's no limit. The limit doesn't exist. because you created an opening that was unlimited. So therefore, there are no limitations in what you do, right? Let's just say you were a teacher and you want to stick to that path. You want more money. Okay, well maybe you will be the principal. That's a little bit more of abundance, but again, according to the law of compensation, it can only carry you as far as you'll let it. All right. So I think that's really, really good example. So before I get into, well, the second to the last one, I don't know why I was thinking there was three. There's so many good things. So before I get into that, I do want to share that the book is very esoteric. So even I had to read it the second time because it was kind of hard to understand. Great examples, beautiful literature, definitely dated, and you definitely, I would recommend you listen to it yourself, and then also come back here and listen to the channel and see if you see, you know, anything, or listen to any type of scholar critique or review and see what they see in it. I'd like to focus on various ideas. I like ideas. I don't like to really get into the minutia and the exactness. I want you to be able to get the idea and own these various topics on your own. Okay? Because that's what I do. I Once I get the idea, I got it. I got it. So the book is hard to read. It's a very short thing, and I don't know why I keep saying book. It's actually an essay. So his essay, which is like a book, covers all of that. And I suggest everybody read it and listen to a video that kind of explains or shows a different way to think of it, and go back and see if you get the idea or the gist. But I think my video breaks it down pretty easy for you. All right. So the third thing is the law of polarity. All right. So this taps into, for every gain, there's a loss. The law of polarity is, if there's someone that is mad, then there's someone that is happy. If there was someone that is running, then there's someone that is immobile. All right. So then that it shows the different things in life. You could call it a dichotomy because it's two different things. So it's important, and it shows that when you use one action, the opposite happens. And so they bring in one aspect of the law of polarity, which is the maximizing on gain and loss, and focusing on the idea that you lose things and that you let it go and that it makes sense for what you want to do. And then you could just build momentum with this one. How about every time you get something you're not supposed to eat out of the fridge, you pay a quarter into, I don't know, a jar, and start getting used to the idea of losing something real soon. Because I know you're powerful manifestors, real soon you will find that things will shift more easily for you because you'll have less resistance because you're just letting it go. Oh, awesome. The sun's coming out. We had an overcast for a second. I suspect rain. But that's the part about the law of polarity in this part, that you lose something to gain something in specific laws. So as you're going through this exercise, as you're implementing the law of compensation, actually use the word gain and loss. It's selected for a very specific purpose. If it was an essay with only so many words, then I know every word matters. All right. So the last point that I'm going to make in relation to the law of compensation that I really, really love is compound gains. Compound gains. And compound gains suggests the longer you wait, the sweeter the juice. Think of an elephant versus a chicken. A chicken takes no time for them to lay the eggs and for the chicken to come. There's so many chickens. But an elephant, right? Just think of an elephant. They're huge. It takes them a long time. Asian elephants, I think like 18 to 22 months. And I think African elephants, for various reasons, they take a little bit longer, 18 to 24 months, I want to say. So the bigger the manifestation is, the logical aspect is it'll take more time. So if it's taking a while, you would appreciate where you are. I appreciate you, universe. You are taking your time with this one. I mean, it's been over a year, but I know that the law of compensation works. I just have to stick to it. So it also relates it to, and here's the part that they tie it to, waiting. Waiting. You got to get better with waiting. You got to get good with waiting. And waiting relates to patience. And here's the code. Here's the code that I want you to get about waiting and patience. You don't have really much of a choice to wait. It's kind of out of your your league. Being patient, you kind of don't have a choice. You kind of, it's out of your pay grade. But the part about patient that stands out that I want you to take is, since you don't have a choice whether you're waiting or not, you mean you could do your part, but ultimately, it's how you do it. It's how you're patient. It's how you go about it. Are you a good person? Are you still staying true to your manifestation? Because just like when you're being interviewed and you have interactions through email or the phone call, you think because you're not at the table with the panel that it's not an interview, it's still gauging, and the universe takes that into consideration as well. All right. So as you're doing your thing, the universe is still gauging until it's done. You want to stick to the script. And then so waiting, that it is a compound gain. So while you're waiting, exercise great patience because it's how you are patient. All right. I hope that wasn't too much for you. If you have any ideas on anything you want me to cover, put it in the comments and I will, take it from there. Well, it's been fun and I can't wait to see you in my next video.